If you want to go ahead and go to joinpd.com and then put in NKBLK.
Kangaroos, brother, lovely kangaroos.
I did not make that up. I do not take credit for that.
We close out of this one that we just did, like the vocab.
You don't have to, but you can. You can just make another tab if you like. We're all here. So, we're just doing a review over figurative language just briefly because I think that you probably have this understanding, but it just needs to reappear back in the brain for you. Meaning, I know you've been taught it before, I just want to make sure it's right where it's supposed to be. So, we were going to be using these when we do our neighborhood poem. So I'm going to be looking for some of this stuff, and so obviously if I'm going to look for it, you have to know what it is, right? So what is a simile? So go ahead and pick there. What do you think from those choices is a simile? It's okay. That's why it's a review. Okay. All right, so it is comparing two things using like or as. Can anybody give me an example of a simile? What if I say someone as big as a house? What does that mean?
You're comparing two things.
But what am I really saying? That person is what?
Big.
Huge, right? Like, no person should be the size of a house, right? That's all I'm saying. Big. Okay. What is a metaphor? So, yeah, it's comparing to things not using like or as. So it's usually are or is are the words that something change it. I don't know. I feel like something. Never mind. So, like you might say, his feet are boats. Okay. So that does not mean he has a tiny foot, right? Because boat's not tiny. Even a small boat, should not be the size of your feet, right? So I'm telling you. He's got big feet, right? So make sure that the comparison is to tell the audience something. It's not just to make a comparison, but it's to actually tell you something about them through that comparison. Okay, so alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of a word. So consonants are anything besides vowels. So anything besides A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. So Bob built brown belts, right? Sally sold seashells by the seashore. Peter Parker picked peppers. You might have noticed a little bit better than what I was trying to make up in my head. But if you listen to rap songs, you will hear alliteration within there. They do a lot better than me and my brown example. You will hear, well, they will do that within like 3 words to kind of give that rhythm or beat to that music. So I want you to try an example. It might be easy to just use your name. Okay, so Leora likes little ladybugs. Okay, you can put in other words like and the to make it make sense. Does that make sense, everyone? So if you need like those words, the, those kinds of things, or even a whole nother word, but most of the words are the same. It's fine. Give it a try.
We just type in, that's it.
Yep. Just type an example there. should have like an R, like
What?
you need to like repeat, like a
Oh.
sound.
Footballers.
No, like Rez likes football for Friday, something like that, like the F F F. Do you know what I'm saying? So you say Rez likes football for Friday. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay. Personification is giving human qualities to non-human things. So, to personify a tree, you might say that the tree danced in the wind. You might say that the tree was scratching at my window. The tree yelled through the forest. None of these things do trees actually do without some other force, right? So without wind, without bad weather, trees don't do anything, right? But stay where they are. Maybe fall over once in a while, okay? So some other things, so I want you to try to personify something. So you can personify your toaster and say like the toaster ate your toast. Or the lawnmower ate the grass. Or the table attacked me, okay? Did the table really attack me? No, I ran into the table. But people say things like that because they personify it. Disney personifies objects all the time, like a teapot, right? Very common. So either try that. My shoe is devouring my foot. Maybe that means giving you a blister or something. But try to personify something and put it in there. You can use it, one of the examples I gave if you don't have anything else. It's okay. Being able to identify it is the most important part. You ready for me? Alright. Go straight at my toes. Start dancing in the night sky. Socking at my foot. Awesome! All great examples of personification. We might not be rappers, but we're good. Okay. Assonance is the repetition of the same vowel sound. So now we are using a vowel sound, which you might have heard as rhyming before, right? So the cat sat on a hat. Okay? So, which one of those is an example of assonance? Yay! He was late for a date with fate. Know that for a word to have assonance, it doesn't have to be exactly matching in rhyming, as long as it's close. Especially in music, you'll hear this, where they are closely connected to sounds, but they're not exactly the same, right? So onomatopoeia is a word that imitates a sound. So it is a word that's making a sound. So crash, boom, bam, crunch. Those would all be sounds that we just spell out. So pick the one there that is an example of onomatopoeia. Right, ring is the noise, right? Where clock is the item. I don't go, my clock doesn't go clock, 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 right? It goes ring. Okay. There you go. On the clock, I suppose. I'm not going to show this answer up on the board, but I will go back and look at them and see what you have to say. So it says, there are many types of figurative language and sensory details. I've used the most common today. So the ones we went over are the most common. Why do you think authors use figurative language? So that's what I want you to answer. Why do you think authors use figurative language? So I'm going to take a minute to think before you write and then write it in there. And I'm not going to share it up here. But I want you to think, why do authors use these things? Why do rappers put these in their songs? Why are they doing that? everybody done? Still writing?
Okay.
You good? Kelly, you good? Alright. So this is a little video that talks or speaks to why writers use this non-figurative language.
That helps you communicate clearly and effectively. It works as a simple browser extension.
We read fiction for many reasons. To be entertained, to find out who done it, to travel to strange new planets, to be scared, to laugh, to cry, to think, to feel, to be so absorbed that for a while we forget where we are. So how about writing fiction? How do you suck your readers into your stories? With an exciting plot? Maybe. Fascinating characters? Probably. Beautiful language? Perhaps. Billy's legs are noodles. The ends of her hair are poison needles. Her tongue is a bristly sponge, and her eyes are bags of bleach. Did that description almost make you feel as queasy as Billy? We grasp that Billy's legs aren't actually noodles. To Billy, they feel as limp as cooked noodles. It's an implied comparison, a metaphor. So why not simply write it like this? Billy feels nauseated and weak. Chances are, the second description wasn't as vivid to you as the first. The point of fiction is to cast a spell, a momentary illusion that you are living in the world of the story. Fiction engages the senses, helps us create vivid mental simulacra of the experiences the characters are having. Stage and screen engage some of our senses directly. We see and hear the interactions of the characters and the setting. But with prose fiction, all you have is static symbols on a contrasting background. If you describe the story in matter-of-fact, non-tactile language, the spell risks being a weak one. Your reader may not get much beyond interpreting the squiggles. She will understand what Billy feels like, but she won't feel what Billy feels. She'll be reading, not immersed in the world of the story, discovering the truths of Billy's life at the same time that Billy herself does. Fiction plays with our senses: taste, smell, touch, hearing, sight, and the sense of motion. It also plays with our ability to abstract and make complex associations. Look at the following sentence. The world was ghost quiet, except for the crack of sails and the burbling of water against hull. The words quiet, crack, and burbling engage the sense of hearing. Notice that Bacall doesn't use the generic word, sound. Each word he chooses evokes a particular quality of sound. Then, like an artist laying on washes of color to give the sense of texture to a painting, he adds another layer, motion, the crack of sails, and touch, the burbling of water against hull. Finally, he gives us an abstract connection by linking the word quiet with the word ghost. Not quiet as a ghost, which would put a distancing layer of simile between the reader and the experience. Instead, Bacall creates the metaphor ghost quiet for an implied rather than overt comparison. Writers are always told to avoid cliches because there's very little engagement for the reader in an overused image such as red as a rose. But give them love began on a beach. It began that day when Jacob saw Annette in her stewed cherry dress. And their brains engage in the absorbing task of figuring out what a stewed cherry dress is like. Suddenly, they're on a beach about to fall in love. They're experiencing the story at both a visceral and a conceptual level, meeting the writer halfway in the imaginative play of creating a dynamic world of the senses. So when you write, use well-chosen words to engage sound, sight, taste, touch, smell, and movement. Then create unexpected connotations among your story elements and set your readers' brushfire imaginations alight.
Okay, so does that make any sense? Like why they might use some of this figurative language? Okay, so we're gonna even build a little bit more on this here in a minute. But if it's too simplistic, there's just too many things that you could determine from that, right? So you need to help your reader create a picture. So that's the part that we're going to be working on. Okay? So we'll take a little bit of a break while I get some stuff set up.